Hello, this is Mayor Raz J. Baraka, and thank you for tuning in to EduTalk, where we will discuss incredible topics centered around our young people, about local control, community schools, our special needs population, creating curriculum and opportunities for young people to move forward from elementary school into careers or to universities. It is the opportunity for us to discuss our young people's creativity, their imagination, their ability to move our city forward. We need them in Newark, and we need the best educated, the most well-trained, incredibly courageous and imaginative young people coming out of our school system. And this show gives us an opportunity to engage those topics. Again, thank you for watching. God bless.
Welcome to EduTalk. My name is Antoinette Richardson, and I'm the Chief Education Officer for Mayor Baraka's Office of Comprehensive Community Education. Today, we're going to talk about chronic absenteeism. Now, if you've been watching our previous segments, you may be saying, well, you already talked about chronic absenteeism. But we're going to go a little deeper and a little different today. When we had the last show where we talked about chronic absenteeism, we talked about the fact that many people don't know. Chronic absenteeism may make you think that that's like 50 absences. No. Chronic absenteeism means that a student has been absent at least 18 days out of a school year. And 18 days, that could be like 2 days a month. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it really does affect learning. On our last show where we talked about chronic absenteeism, we had ACNJ representatives speak who reviewed data from their latest report. And we also had the director of early childhood from the Newark Public Schools District. And she impressed upon us how important it is that even preschoolers attend school every day and how every absence impacts academic growth. Now, today, we're going to talk about chronic absenteeism with a young person who can lend the student voice to this issue, and that is Miss Cassandra Ruffin. And Cassandra is a student at Uplift Academy in Newark. We have with us Dr. Lauren Wells. Dr. Lauren Wells is co-chair of Newark's Youth Policy Board. And we have Mark Comasanias, former principal of Uplift Academy, who was promoted last year to his present position. And he is the executive director of program and instruction for the Newark Opportunity Youth Network. So welcome. Welcome. Before we move on into our conversation, we do what we call a fun fact in every program. So the fun fact is this, and the point of the fun fact is that if you're watching this at home, you have the opportunity to try to find the answer before we come back and give it to you during this program. So, in school year 2015-2016, what percentage of high school students in Newark District high schools were chronically absent? School year 15-16, what percentage of high school students were chronically absent? Okay, we'll come back to you later on with the answer. So now, Mark, you used to be the principal at Uplift Academy. As a matter of fact, I think that's where we met.
Yes.
when you were serving in that capacity. And now you're the executive director of Newark Opportunity Youth Network. So there's a lot of vision, I think, in both of those names, Uplift Academy, Opportunity Youth Network. So what are these two entities? What are they, Uplift Academy and Newark Youth Opportunity Network?
So if I may, I'll start with Newark Opportunity Youth Network first. And so NOIN is a collective impact strategy in the city that's designed to serve what we feel is one of the most important untapped resources and assets in our city. And it is young people who, for whatever reason, have not had success in traditional education programs. And so we bring together some of the organizations that are serving this population in the city, that have been serving these populations for years within the city. And it's basically a think tank. It's pulling them together, pulling their resources together. And it consists of community-based organizations like La Casa de Don Pedro, New Community Corporation, the Urban League, Leaders for Life, Youth Build Norc. It also consists of a partnership with the district and Uplift Academy, which is one of the schools we manage and support. And it also consists of the state's first single-sourced charter called Lead Charter School, designed to serve this population. Uplift Academy specifically, the school where we were able to meet and do some great work with young people, is a school that serves the 16 to 21-year-old students who are overaged and undercredited. As I said, students who, some of them are parents, some of them are court involved, and it gives them an opportunity, and it attempts to uplift the community. Not only uplift them, but in uplifting every single young person, we are ultimately, we believe, uplifting our community in this city.
Thank
and
you.
So that's where those names come from.
I love the name, and I'm glad you talked about the name, because I remember when you changed the name,
Yes.
what was it before?
Fast Track.
Fast Track?
Yeah,
okay,
Fast
to
Track.
Uplift Academy.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so how do you motivate student attendance? How do you get students to attend regularly? I
Yeah.
know you're talking about students who have particular challenges.
Yeah. So, so I must say that we still struggle with chronic absenteeism. So I don't want to send the message that we've solved this problem. Our students still are, according to the definition provided, still chronically absent. But we've seen 70% of our population show increased attendance compared to before they came to us. And I think there's a couple of things we've done to do that. I think one of the things that we've done is we've validated some of the struggles that they're dealing with. We don't judge you if you're a teenage parent. We're not judging you if you just come home from incarceration. We actually use that and leverage that as kind of a motivating factor, because now you have a child to take care of. Now you don't want to go back to being incarcerated. And so I think part of it is not judging the condition, but validating it and leveraging it. I think the second thing we do that has given us tremendous outcomes or growth for students is we leverage peer accountability. We have a philosophy in most of our schools and programs. That philosophy starts with as a community. And so we're very clear that if a student doesn't show up, it impacts us all. It impacts us as a school community, it impacts us as a city. And so we leverage peer accountability. If you don't come to school, it's very likely that one of your classmates is going to say, hey, I didn't see you yesterday. And that's going to give us a greater return than if it's the adult saying, where were you yesterday? And so I think those are two of the things we leverage often in our schools.
So it sounds like you do a lot of work on school culture and climate. And
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Sounds like a model that other people could learn from. Also.
I mean, I think that's what actually brings students to school. It's somebody cared, somebody knows my condition, whatever that condition is, someone asked about it. I think that's the real reason why they come. Unfortunately, as a former educator, I wish I could say they come for reading, writing, and arithmetic.
But it doesn't matter as long as you learn to read, write, do the math and everything else. It doesn't matter how you got there.
Agreed.
It matters that you got there and that you get there as often as possible. Thank you. So Cassandra, you know, you may not hear, but in this adult world where we talk about all this education stuff, we talk a lot about chronic absenteeism, which sounds kind of negative. But what it's really about is something really positive. That's getting young people to come to school every day. So it's kind of like a movement in the city that we're trying to build. So what does that mean in your life, a movement to get students to come to school every day? Does that mean anything to you personally?
It means a lot. I believe it means motivation. They're motivating us to come to school more often. Not only us, not pushing, but like helping us through life. Because you can't go through life without an education. You can't even work at McDonald's no more without a high school diploma. So it's like they're motivating us to do better. Not only motivating, I feel like, to me, is helping me through life and giving me more challenges. Not to only like think about a high school diploma, but think about my future.
Wonderful. So this is a kind of personal question. If you don't want to answer it, it's okay. But would you say that prior to attending Uplift, would you have been considered chronically absent from school?
Yes, around that year, 2015 and 16, I was a senior. I decided like I didn't want to go to school. I was just going through a lot of stuff at the moment. Even friends that I thought that were my friends gave me bad dreams and was like, well, you don't gotta go to school because we about to graduate. And I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I was being naive, and I was just like, well, they probably my friends, they were teaching me the right way, and that was wrong. On my end, I should have just had a second thought and a second opinion and be like, no, school is important. And now that I look at it, I'm like, well, I could have been done and finished with school. I could have been did what I had to do.
But you're doing the right thing now. So what changed for you?
Pushing myself changed for me to do better, knowing that nobody else is going to do what I need to do for myself, and that I have a little seed on the way, so it's like I can't do it for myself no more. I got to do it for my child.
Okay, so it came from within in a lot of different ways. That's wonderful. I mean, that's wonderful that you're looking. I could give like a whole speech and start crying. I'll just say that is wonderful. If you could name one change and I'm not going to say a change in this or a change in that, but one change that would definitely get more high school students to come to school, what might that be? If you could just say, okay, this one thing would get some more kids to come to school.
I would say their struggle in life, to motivate them more to come to school for not just that one purpose, but to show them that you don't have to give up. You can set an example for them, like get them different resources and different academic skills that they lack and to help them more and motivate themselves.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, we always talk about young people, but it's way more important that we talk to young people. So Dr. Wells, I apologize for saving you for last, but you know, you and I could probably have these conversations for like hours. So, you know, and, you know, I'll just say it, you have really, really extensive background and knowledge in education, especially around the issues that we're dealing with today, not chronic absenteeism, dealing with trauma in young people and how they react to trauma, and then how we as the responsible adults need to, you know, respond to that and support them. So right now you are the co-chair of Newark's Youth Policy Board. For those who don't know, what is it? What's the vision and the mission?
So and
whatever else you want to say.
Oh,
okay.
The Newark Youth Policy Board is a citywide table that brings agencies, community-based organizations together, state-level departments, county-level departments, to think specifically about how do we address some of the issues that young people are facing, and do so in a way that comes in the form of policy recommendations to the mayor of the city to help think about how to utilize resources differently, how to bring people together, how to shift the arrangement of things so that many of the external factors that cause challenges in the lives of young people and their families can be addressed. Policy Board has existed, I believe, for about 10 years. It has focused on different areas over that time. It focused on health and obesity when President Obama and Michelle Obama were in office under the umbrella of the Let's Move campaign. It has produced policy recommendations around LGBTQ issues for the mayor's office. And when ACNJ released their initial report around preschool, the mayor asked that the policy board come together and take a systemic, holistic, integrated look at how all of the resources in the city play a part in the causes for why students don't get to school, as well as to begin to then think about what some of the solutions to those causes would be. He subsequently followed up and asked that we bring folks together in a real coordinated way to begin to think about how to engage the community and the stakeholders who are impacted by these problems directly in the creation of the strategies and the recommendations that would be made to him.
So it sounds to me, and I know that that you've spoken a couple of times about these policy recommendations going to the mayor, but wouldn't they also affect other agencies and entities within the city? Like, well, we know the police department obviously is part of the city. I'm just, and this is just off the top of my head. Who else would be affected, could be affected by policy recommendations?
So definitely the agencies that are under the city umbrella, the police department, public safety, health and community well-being, anything that deals with juvenile issues, court systems, et cetera, et cetera. Policy recommendations would also be proposed that would be inclusive of the Newark Public School District. There would, potentially just forecasting some of the ways in which recommendations could be made. They might have to do with realignment of resources and dollars so that CBOs might be affected, right? There might be revenue streams that could be made available for people to come together and to collaborate in these kinds of ways. So there are a range of ways in which recommendations can be made and a range of ways in which thinking strategically and systemically about those recommendations could really create opportunities for people to work together in a coordinated way.
Okay, thank you. And when we talk about opportunities for people to work together, I know there's a big event on April 24th that we can talk about today and hopefully get people to come out and to come and participate in. So I know that we're going to show the flyer for that event. As folks watch the show, they'll see the flyer. But also, this is a great opportunity for you to elaborate and talk about it and get folks excited.
So the Youth Policy Board, Mark, Cassandra, also you as well, and the other organizations that are involved have been planning convening called Showing Up Matters, Shifting the Culture of Chronic Absenteeism, which will take place.
I'm going to stop you.
Yes.
Showing up matters. So it matters if you come to school. It actually makes a difference.
Well, so yes, it matters if students come to school, but this title is also directed at the bigger universe around our young people, right? It matters that we all show up at this convening, but also in ways that allow us to broaden the way in which we work together, to think differently about the ways in which we think about problems around chronic absenteeism, right? Like very often it is constructed as a student or a family problem, and the responsibility for addressing the problem is then put on students and families when there are so many other factors and conditions that shape the environment that students and families live in. And those of us who are engaged in this work are often directly responsible for managing programs or managing resources or managing systems, so that we have to show up to think differently about how we even show up in those positions and think about this issue so that we can come up with solutions that speak directly to some of the things that Cassandra and other young people speak about when they talk about the challenges that prevent them from coming to school, and also the challenges that disengage them from school when they are there.
So can you tell a little bit more about the specifics of the event? The logistics and whatever else people need to know.
The event is happening at the Paul Robeson Campus Center. Is that the full name? I always leave something out. I hope I got that right.
350 Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Registration is at 9:30. It goes until 4:00 p.m. We have been very intentional about making sure that the voices of our students are present throughout the entire day, and that they have a role in both educating us about their experiences and interacting with us in ways that will allow us when we're doing strategizing work to think about the kinds of things that they have brought up. There will be a presentation from Dr. Sunrise Smith from Newark Public Schools that will highlight the work that is currently happening within the district to address the issue. There will be a panel discussion that includes school level folks, principals, some who are working on specific programs. I believe that we're reaching out to the Street Academy to get them involved so that they can talk about their work with Safe Havens. There will be a principal joining us from a school in Trenton who has had some success with implementing strategies to keep our young people engaged in school. And Mayor Baraka and Interim Superintendent Robert Gregory will also be there for a portion of the day to give us some remarks. And we will get to work. We are going to put people
With lunch.
with lunch. There will be lunch. There will be coffee and snacks throughout the day.
Okay.
Yes, Tony, we're going to feed you.
Okay.
I promise. But there will be breakout sessions that are ward-based breakout sessions so that participants can get into conversations with each other across community organization, parent, if there's a bodega owner there, police precinct, to really think about what's the work that we can do in our specific area collectively to make sure that all of the kids that attend schools where we are regionally have the support that they need to get there.
And this is very important. You know, I try to talk as much as possible about shared responsibility. And that's what this is, and that's what you're saying. Of course it's the student's responsibility. Of course it's the family's responsibility. But it is all of our responsibility. We're all affected
Absolutely.
when young people don't go to school, and it affects the quality of life in our city. So it is a shared responsibility. Before I give everyone a final word, a final moment, I want to go to our fun fact. Okay, our fun fact. Question. In school year 2015-2016, what percentage of high school students in Newark District high schools were chronically absent? That means 18 days or more. If you know it, don't say it. I know you all know it. Okay. Almost 50% of high school students in Newark District high schools were chronically absent in school year 2015-2016. More shocking than that, 59% of 12th graders were chronically absent. Something has to change. And I heard you, Cassandra. Something happened to you in that 12th grade where instead of seeing that you were going to go zoom into the future after high school, something kind of didn't happen that way. And it's not just you. As we see from the statistics, this is something that is happening in our city with large numbers of seniors and probably nationally in a lot of places. So, you know, we shouldn't feel like something's wrong with us. It's just us. Something's wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with us. There's circumstances and there are conditions that are causing these things to happen. And we're really glad that right now you're on that trajectory, you know, moving forward the way that you want to and the way that you should. So I'd just like to give each of you a moment. Any final thoughts? Mark, then Cassandra, then Dr. Wells. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
I guess what I would share is a very quick anecdote because it's something that just happened recently. I was talking to a teacher who I had when I was in elementary school, who teaches in this district, and they're a good teacher, but they said to me, you know, Mark, these kids, they're just different. They're different than when you came to school here. And so I said to the teacher, I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. And I said, you know what else is different, Miss So-and-so? I said, the whole world is different. I graduated from here in 1994. You're right, this kid isn't different, but the whole world is different. But the one thing that still looks pretty much the same way it did in 1994, as it still looks now as it did in 1994, is the school. And I think it's rethinking what are we doing? Because I think the intention is there. I think the passion is there. I think the skill set, quite frankly, is there. I think it's a shift of the mindset and saying we can't do what we did 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. I think we have to stay fresh and new so that we can keep the Cassandras and other students like her from either ever leaving in the first place and realizing their full potential. And I think this is an anecdote that just is fresh off the press, right? But I think it speaks to the desire's there. I think we just can't do the same thing we've always done.
And thank you, because it's leaders like you that really help to motivate students and staff, to be willing to make those kind of changes. Cassandra?
I would say for a little moment, not to give up. In my opinion, giving up will just prove certain people that talked about you wrong, right. And just to motivate yourself. Don't just let your guard down. There's always somebody out there that's going to help you, regardless of the situation. No matter what it is, it could be a death, it could be you getting pregnant or anything. Just don't let your guard down. Let somebody out there help you.
Thank you. Thank you for those thoughts. Wow. Dr. Wells?
I think that, particularly as it relates to high school students, that they're engaged in something. Right. And to Mark's point, the reality is that very often what we're doing inside of school does not engage them. So no matter the factors around a child, a teenager, I was a teenager, we were all teenagers, we know that if we want to be somewhere, we're going to be there.
No matter what the consequences.
No matter what the consequences are.
Yeah.
And so I believe that it is extremely important that the conversation is twofold, that it really is a conversation that is about what are the purposes of schooling, particularly for Black and brown children in the world that we live in today, and how does schooling need to be restructured to empower our students to be leaders in their own lives, in their community, and the world. And as a result, I think that means what content looks like and instruction looks like changes dramatically. And we also need to be having the external conversation that is about how is it that we need to be reworking our resources, reworking our relationships outside of schools, the networks, so that the tapestry that needs to be there to be supportive of children and their families, to remove the external barriers, disappear as well. So it is for me a both and conversation, and I am hopeful that this convening that we're having will be a first step in a discussion that is as multidimensional as that.
I think it's important. You're absolutely right, and more people are on board, more people understand, but people do have to be brought together so that they can have those conversations and so that they can figure out how to move forward together. There's a lot going on in the city in different pockets, but we have to have these kinds of convenings to bring the right people together, to have the conversations, and again, to decide how we move forward together. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Dr. Wells.
Thank you.
Director Komisarek.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ruffin.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you for watching this edition of EduTalk, which is brought to you by Mayor Baraka's Office of Comprehensive Community Education. And EduTalk is where we talk about everything education.